This is Todd Owens, Capital Cast TV, and we're here in San Francisco tonight at the DNA Lounge with Chris Pervelis from Internal Bleeding. How are you, Chris?
Doing good, doing good. Looking forward to playing here in San Francisco. Great city.
How's this tour been going so far? Where are you at on the tour in terms of how many dates and whatnot are going on?
Today's the I would call it the turnaround point. This is our last most west show, and now we start heading home. So the tour's half over after today, and then we hit a few more dates in the States, and then it's up through Canada, swing all the way back east, and back home finally.
Pretty extensive. And how's the tour been going? How the band's getting along and everything?
Everybody gets along great. It's with us, Suffocation and Pyrexia, we've all grown up together, literally for the past 23 years within 5-mile radius of each other, so we've been friends forever, and we're getting along great with Cataclysm. Jungle Rot, I've known Jimmy and Dave for 20 years, so it's kind of a big family thing. You know, we don't always get to hang out because we're always separated and always driving, but when we're always together, we're having a good time, and the tour's been going real well. Any
good stories you could share with us, or any
You know what? Nothing out of control's happened. The tour bus is broken down like 3 times, which sucks. And Pyrexia locked their keys in their van, which really sucked. So, but there hasn't been any kind of like out of control or crazy. You know, there's been some places where the pits have gone out of control and they've thrown people out pretty violently. But other than that, everything's been going real smooth. We're real happy.
How would you compare touring nowadays to maybe 20 years ago, or back when you guys were doing it in the 90s? Biggest difference or change?
You know, that's a great question, and I haven't sat down to think about it, but I think touring was probably a little easier 20 years ago for me personally. I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, I was 20 years younger. So I was able to sit in a van with my knees in my mouth for 20 hours and it wouldn't bother me. So it's a little tougher there, and money was believe it or not, money was a little easier to come by 20 years ago. The economy was better, so merchandise sales were better, things like that. I mean, our merch sales are very good, but not like 20 years ago. People consumed merchandise like food, you know, so it's not as much as it is anymore. So money's a little tighter. So I'd say it was a little better back then, but it's still great. You know, it's still a wonderful thing to get out there and see the fans and pound it out every night.
And I don't know how much label support there was back in the day for bands like you guys, but definitely today there's not really that. That's just not there anymore, right?
We actually had some very good tour support for this tour. So and even 20 years ago we had tour support. So I can't comment on that specifically.
So then you were getting good support from your label. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the label, Unique Leaders, treating us real well. So we're really happy. You know, they gave us plenty of tour support, backing, made sure we had albums. You know, the album just came out the day we hit the road. They made sure we were fully supplied. So no complaints. You know, the support's been really great. You know, I can't no complaints. I'd rather be in a bus, but you know, van for now. Next tour is a bus.
So you just mentioned the new album, Imperium. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so let's talk about that. That's I guess the first album you've done in quite a while.
Yeah, it's first album in 10 years. Yeah, first album in 10 years. First album in 14 years with me on it. I'm the founder of the band. I wasn't on the last album.
That's right. There was that little period where the other two guys were there, I guess.
Right. But me and Guy from Suffocation wrote most of that album. But when it came time to record, we were gone. So, but it's 10 years since the last Internal Bleeding release, and it's I like to say it gets back to the roots of Internal Bleeding, but also we push ourselves a little and experiment a little, and we're really happy with the way things have come out.
What about your writing style, or how's that work for the album? And when you're writing, is it mostly you? Is it a collaborative effort?
It's mostly me. But my drummer, believe it or not, contributes a lot. Bill, he'll come up with ideas and he'll iPhone them into me with, you know, he'll hum something to me. He'll be, oh, like, check out this, blah, 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 you know, he'll hum something to me. I'll figure it out.
The drums following you.
Right. He'll come up with guitar ideas. My bass player comes up with some pretty incredible ideas, and you know, with us, the real magic happens in the arrangements. That's when it's truly a team effort, when we arrange, and stuff that I write might transform into something different once everybody gets their ears on it. So it really is a collaborative process, even though the kernel of most of the music comes from me. But I couldn't do it alone. It wouldn't sound like Internal Bleeding, because it needs that group to get in there. It needs my drummer to get in there and kick some beats and say, hey, change this around, and my bass player to do the same, the other guitarist to do the same. So we really work together as a strong unit in the arrangement part, and that's where the magic is.
The three of you, I guess, Brian and Bill and Chris, go way back in the day.
Yeah, me, Brian, and Bill. Me and Bill, I founded the band. Bill was the next member to join, the first member that joined the band, so I consider him a founder of the band. And Brian wasn't far, it was a year later. So we're, us three are definitely founders and original members of the band.
Going on like 23 years or something like that?
Since 1991, so that's what, 23 years, 24 years, yeah. It's very exciting.
Did you have thoughts back then, 23 years ago, that like you'd still be playing the stuff live and everything, or was metal kind of a way of life for you back then and you thought it would continue?
Metal is old, since I was 4. Metal has been, I discovered Black Sabbath at 4 years old. In 1972, yes, I'm that old, and since then I haven't turned back. I've been a metalhead. I always will be a metalhead. It's not going to end. I'll play this as long as my body allows me to play it. I'll do the band and I'll do touring and recording as long as my body allows me. So we'll see. It could be another 20 years. I could be Lemmy. You never know.
Yeah, that's always an interesting thought of mine, is how long will some of the death metal bands continue on? How long can they do it?
If it's in your heart, though, you don't want to stop. It's in my heart. It's what I love to do. It's what I want to do. I wish I could do it for a living, but I'm accustomed to a certain lifestyle, so I don't want to live like a starving musician. So I have a job. I own a business, and I do this as much as I can.
And home for you is back in Long Island, is that correct? Or where are you from? Where are you based now?
Long Island. I'm based in Center Reach, and most of the band is pretty much around that area. And we jam at my house. So it works out real good.
What's scene like in Long Island, or?
It's pretty beat. Yeah.
Manhattan's got stuff going on?
Manhattan's a little better. It's not. Long Island used to be the king of death metal on the East Coast in the 90s. I mean, shows were 400, 500 people for local bands. Now, it's like pulling teeth. You can't get anybody out to a show. So it's really difficult in New York. But it's still, when there's a good show, the crowds come out. It's harder for the underground bands to get a good crowd. That's all.
You guys have influenced so many bands with your style of music that you kind of started the slam metal thing, and any current bands that maybe you'd like, or?
Oh yeah. There's a band out on Long Island called the Merciless Concept. Killer band. Love them so much. Dysentery from Massachusetts. I love them. There's a lot of bands. I call them newer, even though some of them have been around a while. But in my perspective,
funny how when you get old and somebody that's been around for 10 years are like, oh, they're still a new band.
Right.
If you're comparing,
to me, that's what it is. If they're around for 10 years, that's a new band to me. So it's weird, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there now. And the musicianship, I think, has really increased over time. More technically competent guitarists and bassists and drummers are getting into death metal, because I think it's that type of music where they can truly express themselves. You can't have pop music and a guy who wants to shred on guitar. It doesn't work. But in death metal, it works. So I mean, technical isn't my ball of wax, but I love listening to it. And there's just so many talented guys and girls out there who just master their instruments at such a young age. It's incredible.
Talking about guitars, any gear you'd like to talk about, or guitars, amps, or anything?
I use a Rollers custom guitar. It was built custom for me. It's a great guitar. I still use the Ampeg VH140C head that I used when I founded the band. And honestly, that's it. My head doesn't need any pedals or anything like that. It's crushing distortion and overdrive, which is the gain. So that's what I use. I haven't changed, and I refuse to change.
Well, I think that's all I had. I just want to say that thanks for Back in '95, Voracious Contempt. Still, I think it's one of the sickest death metal albums ever. So
thank you.
Thanks. And anything you want to add to people on Capital Chaos TV might be watching?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, all you guys and girls who have supported Internal Bleeding throughout these years. I cannot tell you how much all of us appreciate the support, and support Capital Chaos TV as much as you can. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Thanks, brother.
Hey, this is Chuck Billy from Testament, and I'm blowing it up.
Blowing it up.
Blowing up.
On Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos. Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos.
Capital Chaos TV.
Motherfucker. Go fuck your mother.